Yeah, that's right. You know what it is. It's the one and only, the real Leel, here for another episode of the Real Leel Show. Is going down here on the Can You Dig Sports Radio Network. For those of y'all watching on Spotify and YouTube, welcome aboard. And man, when I tell you I'm feeling it, I am, because we got a stacked show for the American people today. And you know what? I realized that I got to be the calm in the storm. There's so much things going on in the world right now. You have a lot of pedophiles walking the earth, okay? And to take our mind off of that for a second, and I know it's hard to do. I said, you know what, Lil, be the calm in the storm. One thing that brings people together is sports. And we're going to break it down. We're going to talk some of the hottest topics out right now. The Super Bowl is over. All right, Sam Darnold is a champion, and the Seattle Seahawks is as well. We're gonna break that down. Bad Bunny ain't funny, brother. Bad Bunny, it ain't funny, brother. We're gonna break down that halftime garbage. Okay, yeah, I said it. We're gonna break down that halftime garbage, and we're gonna talk about how the NFL turned its back on its hardcore fans. All right, we coming in smoking. All right, like some barbecue. All right. We're going to break it down. I got guests on this show, so let me shut the hell up and introduce them. I'm going to begin with my guy, Lee, who's back on this show. It's a reoccurring thing now. So, Lee, I'm going to start off with you. How you feeling, man? Lee, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. We froze there for a minute, but I'm good, man. It's some great topics. I'm looking forward to getting into it, man. The Bad Bunny thing, Super Bowl recap, the Harden thing is interesting as well. And you're talking about tanking. I know you're gonna have some specific opinions about that, but it's gonna be a great show, man. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. You know what they say, Lee? It ain't the frozen one if you ain't the chosen one. All right. I got my guy, Mykell. Can't you tell? He's in the building. Mykell, the PG, the point guard. I'm gonna be playing point guard on this show, but you're gonna be the shooter. You're gonna be the shooting guard. Mykell, how you feeling, man?
Nah, pretty good, man. Exciting times. NFL was done, but I mean more hoops. You got the Winter Olympics. It's a lot of things going on. Music, big music guy. Been tapped into that J. Cole. So man, excited to have fun on this show, man.
Yeah, man, more hoops, more truth, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna speak it, and we might as well begin. Speaking of sports, we're gonna recap the Super Bowl, and then we're gonna get to some basketball. Let's start off with the loser before we talk about the winner. Does Drake Maye's postseason struggles and Super Bowl struggles change our perception of him? Mykell, the mic is up.
My perception going into the playoffs was that he played a cupcake schedule. He had a hot second year. We saw Jaden Daniels last year as a rookie have a similar type of year. Only difference was he didn't make it to the Super Bowl. They came up short against the Eagles in the conference championship where no one expected them to do so. Everything fell into place for the Patriots to make the run that they did, but I always viewed them as a team that really wasn't good enough, that just kind of caught the Chiefs having a down year, the Ravens having a down year. They didn't have to face Buffalo in the playoffs. So I always view Drake Maye as a guy that's, he's just kind of I have my tier of quarterbacks, right? You have the elite guys and you have the Alex Smith guys. To where those Alex Smith guys, if everything around them goes perfectly right, they can make a Super Bowl run. But they're not two guys that you would just throw anything out there on the field and say, hey, go figure it out. That defense was lights out most of the year. You don't have to face Bo Nix in Denver in that blizzard that they played in. So everything kind of fell in place. The team averaged only 15 points offensively before the Super Bowl, and they won games. Why? Because the defense only allowed 8 points per game in that stretch. So I think that because he had such a solid year, I would say really good year, that people were gassing up Drake Maye to another level, to where I'm like, I don't even think he's there. I think you have to look at the totality of the Patriots. He was kind of like a young Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady's first Super Bowl run. They were a run team they were a team that played through the defense. That's what Drake Maye was. But at least Tom Brady showed the clutch gene in some of those playoff performances, which led to him leading his team down the field in the Super Bowl to beat the Rams. But Drake Maye, he didn't have it against the AFC teams. Now you're going against a team like Seattle that can actually move the ball. So you're not having this great field position. And he got exposed, and you really saw the struggles. You saw the offensive line, the issues there. You saw that they need more weapons. And you saw that you can't just throw Drake Maye out there. And it's crazy because I was there during Super Bowl week covering it, and you can just between the two teams, there were a different energy, right? With the Seahawks, they seemed very calm and confident. For the Patriots, they seemed like, hey, we want to get out there and see what we can do. Like it was more of they were trying to see if they had what it takes, to where Seattle was like, hey, we earned this. We deserve to be at this level. So Drake Maye, he still has some time to grow, but I would say not so fast on crowning him too quickly. And it showed in that Super Bowl game that he's not that guy as of yet.
All right, Lee, the mic is yours.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the brother Mykell's take on it. But look, Drake Maye had a phenomenal season. Let's be honest. I mean, he fell in one vote, a couple of votes short of being the MVP. So we have to give the proper respect to his season, right? You know, for over 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, number 1 in QBR in the league. I mean, those are great stats for a guy in his second year. So the totality of what Drake Maye did this year on the season, and we're talking about 17 games, you have to give him a lot of mad respect for what he did. You know, in going into the playoffs, you know, they played some great defensive teams, and those teams are going to make a lot of people look bad, and certainly he struggled in the playoffs. But I give him an A- on the season. He improved immensely year over year. His completion percentage was, up near 70-something% for the majority of the year. Played very well, used his feet. So he can only go up. And I think, New England is set at the quarterback position with Drake Maye. Seattle was the better team. I mean, that's just the bottom line there. And New England has to look at fixing their offensive line, because their offensive line actually struggled throughout the whole playoffs, really. Excellent defense, as you said. I mean, the defense kept them in every game. And then I do think they're going to have to upgrade the receiver position. I mean, Diggs was basically invisible in the entire Super Bowl. So no, I like what Drake Maye put on tape. I think he's an ascending quarterback. I think he's locked in, and I think he had a good season, a very good season. However, he wasn't going to be the force multiplier in the Super Bowl to take his team to a championship. There's only 3 or 4 of those in the league anyway, Leel. And so he's an ascending quarterback. I like what he did this year. And I think that, for New England, they're should be pretty happy with the future at the QB position there.
I mean, look, Drake Maye's performance didn't change my perception of him, but it changed my perception of the Patriots. I was one of those Patriots defenders this season when it came to the argument of strength of schedule, primarily because they only won 4 games last year. So they were considered to be the cupcake on the schedule a couple years ago. Now they became a team that handled their schedule, right? And I was a defender at that time. But now, after looking at this can of whip ass in the Super Bowl, it leads me to look at the schedule more directly. And when I did that after the Super Bowl, I did it today, I'm looking at these wins and I'm like, okay, well, I see how they were able to creep up here. You look at the regular season, 11 of New England games this season involved a team that fired their head coach. Okay, 11. That's half of the schedule. Matter of fact, that's more than half of the schedule. That's a quarter of the schedule, right? So that gives you some context on some of the teams that they played. Obviously, you only fire a coach if you're not good enough, right? The postseason wins. You look at the Chargers. They were without their tackles, right? So Herbert, no playoff wins So clearly, that's not a guy that strikes fear in our heart in the playoffs, right? Now you look at the Texans. CJ Stroud was the modern day Santa Claus. He kept giving away the ball, okay? And then you look at Bo Nix. Oh, you got Bo Tricks. He wasn't playing the game. He was hurt, right? Okay, so now you look at Sean Payton, the head coach. He doesn't know how to prep watching the weather report because he's out here going for it and trying to be aggressive with a backup quarterback. So that was mismanagement. He actively cost his team the victory. So now they get to the Super Bowl. In the moment they play a good quality team, the Seahawks is not like this. This is not the Legion of Boom, people. This is not the Legion of Boom. Okay, now they good. They defense is legit. Might arguably be the best in the NFL, but it's not the Legion of Boom. Okay, this is not a juggernaut of a football team. Sam Darnold is good. We're gonna talk about him more, but he's not elite. He's not Brady. He's not Mahomes. He's none of those guys. Okay, so it's not like this team was great. They were good enough, right? And guess what? The moment the Patriots played a good enough football team, they lost. And the reality, not lost. Oh, I'm wrong. They didn't lose. They got demolished. Okay, now the reality is, you cannot put a band-aid on the offensive line and expect to win a championship. Drake Maye suffered the same fate that Joe Burrow did when he played the Rams. He suffered the same fate that Mahomes did when he was running for his life against the Buccaneers, missing 2 of his linemen in that Super Bowl. He suffered the same fate that Tom Brady, the GOAT, faced when he played the Giants in 2007, the undefeated Patriots, against that scrappy Giants team. And it was his turn. He didn't have a great offensive line. He was sacked 5 times in each playoff game prior to the Super Bowl. He got sacked 6 times in the Super Bowl. And to me, you can't win the Super Bowl that way with your offensive line looking like that. So to me, I don't think my perception of Drake Maye changed, but I do think my perception on the Patriots did. And that was because of that strength of schedule.
No, yeah, I just can't wait to, like I said, it reminded me a lot of that Commanders run. I remember last year how the Commanders made that surprising run with Jaden Daniels. And I believe that if Jaden Daniels is healthy, he's a better quarterback than Drake Maye. They just took advantage of a cupcake schedule. I'm looking at their schedule. Their best win might have been October 5th at Buffalo, which they won by 3, which, led to matchups like you mentioned. They got matchup against the Saints, Titans, Cleveland, Atlanta, Jets, Cincinnati, Giants. Like, they didn't play this juggernaut of a schedule. Next year, they're going to have a first place schedule. So we're going to be able to really learn about, Drake Maye and who he is and things like that. But he was just playing hey, we got this defense. You don't got to go too crazy. They weren't asking him to throw 400 yards. I'm trying to think. He didn't throw. He threw more than 300 yards one time the entire season. So he was never asked to go out there and go be dominant, go and win. He just played his role, and he played it very well. But when it came to finally facing a complete team, he got exposed and he looked rattled. And I know of course, you got to have the O-line help because the best of quarterbacks need that. But he was missing a lot of throws that he made throughout the season, a lot of easy throws that he would usually make during the year. But the moment was too big. This is a kid who played at North Carolina in college. He didn't come from a team that made the CFPs. He played at North Carolina. This was the biggest moment that he had. He couldn't count on his defense because Seattle was running and moving the ball pretty much at will, even though the defense was doing some really good bend but don't break. So he needed to show up and ball out, and he just wasn't ready for the moment. The O-line wasn't ready for the moment. The receivers weren't ready for the moment. So I think it's a total indictment on just this whole group, and it's going to be a lot of pressure on them because it's going to be like, hey, y'all weren't supposed to win 14 games last year. So let's see what you guys can do. And if every year when it comes to the final 4 teams, at least one of those teams misses the playoffs. And I think if you're looking at it, Buffalo, I believe, is going to bounce back and be solid. Of course, the Jets stink and Miami's going to stink. but the teams that they're going to have to play are going to be much tougher. So it's going to be something we have to look out for Drake Maye and the Patriots if they have some issues next season, that they kind of came onto the scene prematurely.
Yeah, I think two things real quick, Leel. This defense for Seattle is better than the Legion of Boom. I saw that defense. They're better in the secondary as a total, and they rushed the passer better than the Legion of Boom did. So this defense this year was better than the Legion of Boom for Seattle. There's no doubt about that. Look, you only play the teams on your schedule. We didn't talk about Buffalo all these years. They play the same AFC East schedule that New England played. You only play the teams on your schedule. That's the way it is year in and year out. Bottom line, though, is the guy threw for over 4,300 yards, and his quarterback rating was 112, and his QBR was 77. So we can't penalize him for that. He led the league in QBR. So, again, New England has some things that they need to improve, but you have to look at it. This is the first year under Mike Vrabel. They're only going to get better. So I like where New England's at as a team. I just think that Seattle was just dominant. I mean, really, when you look at that game on Sunday, they pretty much gave up in the second quarter. The game was over. They were afraid to throw the ball down the field. They couldn't throw the ball down the field because there was so much pressure on Drake Maye when he dropped back. And then once Seattle shut down the run, shut down Stevenson, and Henderson wasn't even a factor, the game literally was over. So to me, it's just the dominance of the Seattle's defense more than anything in this game. And Maye's a young guy. He's in his second year in the league. So again, for him to be where he was and going to the Super Bowl, great experience for him. I wasn't the biggest Drake Maye fan, and I do think that Jaden Daniels as a prospect, as a talent, is better. But Jaden Daniels has a lot of things to correct in his game. Mainly, he runs too much. That's a recipe for disaster. But
Lee, what do you think? Where do you rank Drake Maye? If both of y'all could give me like a ranking in his quarterback class, I don't got to go too deep into detail, but if you had to rank Drake Maye in his quarterback class that he came out of, where would you rank him?
I would go Caleb Williams first, Jaden Daniels second, Drake Maye, and then Bo Nix. That's how I would go.
So you have a number 4.
I have number 4, yes.
And did that change? Because that's the part of the question.
I've always had him number 4. I've always had him. I have him 3, Leel. I have him 3. I've always had him 3. I think he's a better prospect than Bo Nix. But I have him 3 coming out of the class. But
and what about you, Mykel? And did it shifted? Did this game shifted where you had him heading into the game in that quarterback group?
No, I had him like similar. I just have Jaden Daniels at the top. I believe when he's healthy. I love Caleb Williams, but Caleb, he misses a lot of the gimme throws that you're supposed to get, and that's why his percentage is not always as great. He makes the wild plays that blows you away, but those gimme throws sometimes keeps you from even having to make the wild plays because you have a lead instead of trying to come back. So I have Jaden first. I have Caleb second. Then I'm gonna go Drake Maye and then Bo Nix. I think Drake Maye and Bo Nix are interchangeable. Two teams that play on run-first teams is led by their defense. I believe Drake Maye is younger, so I will roll with him there. But honestly, it's a toss-up. It's going to be very interesting because the AFC kind of had a year of some of the better teams not playing up to their par. So some of these young teams were able to kind of jump ahead. So we're going to see if those teams bounce back, if Drake Maye can be what he was and things like that, or take a step forward, like Lee is saying, because it's going to be all eyes on him. Like no one, when you win 14 games after 4, that third year, people are going to expect for you to be around 11 to 13 wins, where, if they drop to 9 wins, 10 wins, people can look at that as a disappointing season. So it's going to be interesting, but that's my 4: Daniels, Williams, Drake Maye, and Bo Nix.
All right. I mean, before we move on to the Seahawks side of things real quickly, the Patriots, they embodied the Warriors movie, right? We always heard them, Warriors, right? And that's my favorite movie of all time. Anybody that know me know that that's my favorite movie of all time. That's why I started the Can You Dig Sports Radio Network from the opening of the movie. Can you dig it? Right? So the thing that I want to leave with Mike Vrabel, since you want to quote my favorite movie, and I'm not mad. I like it. Spread awareness to my flick. All right. But in the movie, the Warriors, when they got to the finish line, when they got to Coney Island, they won. They were victorious. They defeated the Rips. It was a wrap. Now, the Patriots, you fumbled at Coney Island. Okay, you needed to win the Super Bowl. You fumbled at the 1 yard line. That's not Warriors, bro. Okay, that's not Warriors. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Seattle Seahawks right now. And what is our biggest takeaway from the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl? Lee, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, just a dominant defense, and and really, when you look at Seattle, probably one of the all-time great defenses. To be honest with you, they can rush from all four. They can get pressure without having to blitz, even though they sent some excellent blitz packages in there to confuse Drake Maye on Sunday. And then the one thing I love about the Seahawks, they tackle so well. When they hit you, you go down. It's not like, you get yards after the catch or anything like that. You don't see running backs breaking tackles. So I love that defense, and that defense is here to stay. Both defenses are really. I think New England's defense put on a great show as well, but the Seahawks defense is here to stay, and that's going to always travel. JSN, hey, I think I like Jamar Chase better than JSN, but he's in the top 2-3 in the league as far as wide receivers. Shaheed with the speed. I mean, the Seahawks have something. Donald, it was a average game for Donald. He made 2 or 3 throws. That's really all he needed to do with the way the defense played and the way Kenneth Walker was running. And I'm glad he got the MVP. And no one tried to pull a fast one and give it to Donald. So the running game, playing defense, good on special teams, you're always going to be in it to win it if you do that, and that's what Seattle is. And, Sam Darnold, he had a good postseason, but he came back to who we thought he was. I mean, and so, he just had to make a few plays, and he did make a few throws, but Seattle's defense is an all-time great defense, and that defense was dominant on Sunday.
I would say this before I pass it to you, Mykell. To me, my biggest takeaway is that although the Seahawks defense was the catalyst for this Super Bowl run, Sam Darnold did not, Sam Darnold played his part in that, because say what you want, you got guys like Devin Witherspoon, Murphy in the interior. They all played well. The Seahawks secondary played well. They disguised the blitzes. They made, they sped Drake Maye up in the pocket. He looked lost out there. So the defense clearly, they played the back-to-back, they played the MVP and the MVP runner-up in back-to-back weeks. This defense was legitimate, right? But you look at Sam Darnold, he had led the league in turnovers, 20 turnovers on the year. In the playoffs, he had 0 turnovers. So the fact that Sam Darnold was able to protect the football in the postseason is one of the under-the-radar things that we are going to talk about. Because, we might talk about the Seahawks. We might talk about the redemption of Sam Darnold. But the key stat that we need to talk about more is the fact that he went from 20 turnovers in the regular season to 0 in the postseason. You think about that Rams matchup that went back and forth, tit for tat. If he threw a pick, they could have lost that game. Sam Darnold played lights out. He may not have played a great Super Bowl, but in order for them to get there, it was him and his ability to protect the football, make crucial throws that got them there, especially against the Rams. So to me, his lack of turnovers, his 0 turnovers, was crucial in the postseason.
Almost threw 4 interceptions in that Super Bowl, though, Leel. Those balls were. Come on, man. Look, I didn't want to cut you off, okay, but I have to get this in here. Look, I agree with you. He played his part.
I almost dated Rihanna. That's what I didn't.
Let's not go overboard with the Sam Darnold love. He did do a good job in the playoffs, but man, even against the Rams, there was some that could have been picked. So yeah, he did what he had to do in the Super Bowl.
Man, the big winner of this is the Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker. At one point earlier in the season, it was like, where is he going to get traded to, right? It was talking about the Commanders, possibly the Chiefs and things like that. Now he's going over into free agency. He had a combined 100 yards in the NFC Championship game with a score. And then you have this MVP performance in the Super Bowl, which would have been a near 200-yard game if it wasn't for that holding penalty that took back his long touchdown run. So it's Kenneth Walker was the guy that they was able to lean on. They lost Charbonnet for the year, so he was more of a bell cow for them. And with his speed, you really saw the best of him. Like, he was doing some Le'Veon Bell type things, the way he was patient in the backfield and getting those yards, and just his burst and things like that is going to lead to him making some really good money. And sometimes you just need things to go right for you, right? Sam Darnold protecting the ball was key. The defense was great, but I do think a lot of that was because of the Patriots just weren't a good matchup. Like, they weren't the type of offense to challenge them. We saw the Rams score 27 against the defense and could have done more damage if it wasn't for a muff punt, which helped the Seahawks score a touchdown there in that game. So you just saw things fall into place for a well-balanced football team.
Yeah, Seattle, to your point, Mykel, Seattle only stopped the Rams one time, and it was a crucial stop. It was that last, that got them the ball back to ice the game. So I don't know what this Legion of Boom comparison we talking about here. Talk about they better than the Legion of Boom.
Because they're looking at the one Super Bowl game.
The thing about the Rams and the Seahawks, that was their third game they play. And they play them year in and year out. So you have the book on that. You play them three times, you're going to know
the second game.
Booker
had like 200 yards in the second game.
When you match up against them three times, you're going to know how to play them. So that's why divisional games matter, and teams play so well against a divisional opponent. But when you look at, if you compare what the Seahawks did this year to the Legion of Boom, and I'll get that comparison for you, Leel, I think they were better.
The only thing with that is, like, if you look at their postseason run, they faced the banged up Niners, which they dominated. They were supposed to. They didn't have Kittle. They didn't have a lot of pieces there. And then, the Rams gave them a run for their money. Then you face the Patriots, who honestly shouldn't have. If the Patriots faced Buffalo in the playoffs or a healthy Denver team, they wouldn't have been in the Super Bowl. And the Seahawks just took advantage of it. Like, they were well coached. They were very well balanced. The defense, whenever they had struggles, the offense can carry the load. And whenever the offense were low, the defense can carry the load. They were just a very well-balanced team that took advantage of some of the top-tier teams not performing as well this season. But I just think that Kenneth Walker, man, he's going into free agency. Hey, I was able to finish this strong. I'm a Super Bowl MVP. I need more money from whomever try to throw me a contract. So I think that he is the biggest winner of this all. And that, hey, Seattle, they got their get back, right? They should have beat the Patriots years ago if it wasn't for the dumbest play call in the history of football by not handing it to beast mode. And they were able to get their get back. So shout out to the Seahawks. What's crazy, though, guys, just being in the Bay Area for the Super Bowl, for Super Bowl week, honestly, it didn't feel as big of a game as it should have felt compared to prior years. And I don't know if it's because of the location, because this year with the Super Bowl, you had events in San Jose, which is an hour from San Francisco, and then you had stuff in San Francisco, and then the game was played in Santa Clara. So it was all over the Bay, so spread out that it didn't feel the same like it did being there last year in New Orleans, where everything was in the same location pretty much, to where wherever you went, you got that Super Bowl feel. The year prior in Vegas, the same thing. You got that Super Bowl feel. And it was just two teams who didn't have big names, big egos. It was like you had to really love football to be fully, indulged into this game. And we just saw the Seahawks take care of a lesser team, and that's why they're the champs.
I mean, Seattle,
Seattle would have beat any AFC team that went to the Super Bowl. Any of those teams in the AFC, Seattle would beat. There's no doubt about that.
I agree with that.
I think if Bo Nix is healthy, Denver, their defense was better than the Patriots, to where they would have been able to do a little more.
Yeah. Bo Nix is a turnover machine too. He's not an accurate throw of the football down the field to me. Seattle would have, in my opinion, beat any team.
A big issue too was that the Patriots defense, they were just giving up a lot of yards. Like Kenneth Walker was killing them, and that's what led to. And if once you saw the struggling of that Patriots offense, you knew. I was watching the game. I'm like, oh, the field goals are fine because Drake Maye looked shook out there. Will Campbell was looking like he was going against Ghost. He was just allowing anything by him. So, the field goals were just what you needed. I think you have to have an offense that can attack and make Sam Darnold have to play special to beat them. Yes, yep. And he was able to do it, enough against the Rams, which that's what would make that win so impressive. But the Patriots just couldn't do that because that offense was not it. It was what somebody said. The name Drake has been going through it for the last 2 years, and Drake Maye was a part of it, man.
And look, I would say this. I understand why the vibes was low. Everybody wanted to see the Chiefs get their ass kicked again. I had fun watching that. People think I hated the Chiefs and I hated their success. No, I hated the fact that I couldn't see them get their butts whipped like last year. But that's neither here or there.
Sports, politics, conspiracy theories. We are here to give you our unique perspectives on things happening in the world. It's the one and only, The Real Leel on The Real Leel Show.